We are the New York Knicks. 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 Say go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go. Say go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go. Well, just like that, look who's back in the mix. Straight out of New York City, it's them red hot Knicks. And nothing's gonna stop us from hanging a banner. Not the Hawks, Heat, or even Indiana. It's the Knicks, back on pace, back in the chase. That's right, the 8th seed in the thick of the race. And while you try and react to the shots we be blocking, check out the team that keeps the Garden rocking. Spree, hitting threes, playing D. Houston launching jumps from the top of the key. And Ward, you and Child and Larry. Thomas, Big Chris, and Marcus can be. Nobody does it like the Knicks can. Go get your best 5 guys. In fact, grab a 6-man. The Spreewell and the Knicks excel. Look out, the number 18 is starting to gel. Go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go. Say go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go. You want depth, hold up with 2 deep. And Indiana, they're gonna end up with the Hawks and the Heat. While the Knicks sweep them with the broom. See, our season don't end till the middle of June. Don't ever count out the Knicks team, cause in a blink, the squad's down 16. So if you think you can beat us, you're just a dreamer. The Knicks, we don't lose in a home arena. Say go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go. Say go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's fire it up. I like that. Gets me hyped. It lowers my nerves. It lowers the anxiety. I'm hyped. You're hyped. First conference finals game for the Knicks in 25 years. And we're going to break it all down. We're going to talk Knicks-Pacers game 1, keys to the game. You know the deal. But first, my thoughts and my sentiment regarding this game and where this Knicks team is right now. And that's just like trying to ground myself, trying to understand that this doesn't happen very often. This is the first time it's happened in my life. I'm going to try to enjoy it. I'm going to try not to hate tweet the entire team. I'm going to try to not lose it collectively like I do normally, even with regular season games. But obviously the stakes are much higher right now, and I'm going to try to enjoy it. I'm going to try to sit here and not be too emotional about it and give you objective analysis. So let's just start with this and just discuss the stakes of this game. You understand that this Knicks team has not been in the conference finals in 25 years. It's the first time the Pacers are also trying to advance the finals in 25 years as well. So there's a lot of history on the line here. I think all 4 teams remaining haven't won a championship in a very long time. So you can understand what's at stake for all 4 of these teams remaining. But obviously what's at stake here for the Knicks and the Pacers, a long-term rivalry starting in 1993 and then the mid-90s and the late 90s and then 2012, 2013. You remember Roy Hibbert's block of Carmelo Anthony in Game 6. That is the last playoff memory I had for 8 years. The Knicks are back. The Pacers are back. The NBA is better when these 2 teams are at the top of the Eastern Conference. Now, going into this playoffs, going into this season, I don't think many people expected this to be the final matchup in the Eastern Conference. I don't think anyone expected that even 2 weeks ago. But we're here right now. And it's a culmination of one really amazing playoff run and another one which is impressive, but at the same time does not rival what the other one has. And of course, we're talking about the Knicks being the one that is the most impressive, beating Detroit in 6 games, beating the Celtics in 6 games when no one gave them a chance at winning that series. The Pacers, on the other hand, they beat Milwaukee. I wasn't too high on Milwaukee. I've been saying it all year long. They were frauds. Of course, there was an injury to Damian Lillard, and that threw a wrench in Milwaukee's chances in that series. But, I still think the Pacers would have won that series, not in as little games as they wanted. And then, obviously, they advanced to the second round. Cleveland is banged up as hell. They've got Darius Garland playing on 1 foot. One of his toes is broken. I don't know what the hell happened. 3 players missed Game 2. The Cavs blow a 9-point lead with 35 seconds to go, and then that series was over. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Pacers' run to this point is illegitimate, that we shouldn't be sitting here and giving them credit for advancing this far, but they did it last year too. All right, and I know that there were injuries to the Knicks, and we're going to get into that. We're going to get into what has changed over the last year. But congratulations to the Pacers. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they don't deserve credit. They don't deserve their flowers for making it to this point. Here they are for the second year in a row. Got to give them credit for that. So last year, if you remember, The Knicks lost in 7 games to the Pacers. They went up 2-0. They had a chance to go up 3-0, and Andrew Nembhard hit a 35-foot three to win that game, to send them up 3. It was a tie game. It wasn't like the Knicks were going to win the game, but it was a prayer of a shot. It goes in. It makes it 2-1. And then at that point, with OG Anunoby out with the injury, the hamstring injury in Game 2, you knew he wasn't going to return the rest of the series. He played in Game 7, obviously came out immediately because his hamstring was completely effed up. But the Pacers won that game in 7, even though the Knicks were missing 4 rotation players. And 5 if you count Jalen Brunson's injury at the end, even 6 with Josh Hart's injury with the ribs. So we're here now, a year removed, a series in which the Knicks could have won even with all those injuries. They didn't. The Pacers were only missing one guy in Benedict Mathurin, and they advanced to conference finals where they got swept by the Boston Celtics, even though most of those games were close. So they've got a chip on their shoulder because they got crushed by Boston. The Knicks, of course, have a chip on their shoulders because they lost to the Pacers last year with all those injuries. And I know that this isn't exactly the same team. The Knicks, of course, lost Hartenstein. They lost Hartenstein. They lost Julius Randle, and they lost DiVincenzo, and they lost Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks. Those guys don't really count. And of course, they've added Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns. So here we are. The Knicks were 2-1 against the Pacers this regular season. The one game they lost, they blew a lead that they had going into the fourth quarter. I remember exactly where I was when it happened. I believe it was the same week as the Giants game in Germany against the Panthers that they lost. I remember exactly at the same time. I was very upset about those 2 games. The Knicks should have won that game. They should have went 3-0 against the Pacers. They don't. They win Game 3 though, in which Karl-Anthony Towns puts up 40 points. The Pacers were missing Miles Turner, but at the same time, the Knicks were missing OG Anunoby, who was still out with that injury that he suffered right before the All-Star break, and he missed about a week and a half after the All-Star break. And they obviously were not with Mitchell Robinson, who ended up coming back from his injury in late February. So here we are now with both teams looking extremely healthy. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see any injuries, obviously, with your own team, but you also don't like to see injuries for the other team. You'd like both teams at full strength. Let's get a real matchup here with both teams playing as well as they possibly can play with all their players. That is great. That being said, it makes this a lot more enjoyable. Now, let's get into this series. Let's get into what's at stake here in Game 1. The Knicks, I've got to pinch myself. They've got home court advantage to start the Eastern Conference Finals. It's freaking insane. It really is. But here we are. The Knicks are at home. The Knicks have not been great at home besides 2 games they played. I mean, they won that first game of the series against Detroit, in which they went on the 21-0 run, fueled by Campaign, who's been a non-factor the rest of these playoffs. So that is kind of a fluke win. They won that one game. They won 3 games in Detroit, and then they won games 1 and 2 in Boston, and then they won 2 games at home to close out the series. The Knicks are going to have a chance to win this series based on home court advantage. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm not that confident with the Knicks playing at home. The ticket prices have kind of fallen. I thought they were going to be exorbitantly expensive after looking at how much they were in the second round of the playoffs. This is the conference finals. The tickets are a little bit less expensive than what we saw in all those games against the Celtics, and I can understand why. It's the Celtics versus the Pacers. I understand. This is the conference finals, though. The Garden is going to be bringing the energy. There will be less fans that are Pacers fans in the Garden than they were Celtics fans last series, and that isn't a crazy take whatsoever, but that is going to be the case. The Knicks, listen, I want to tell you that the Knicks are going to win this series handedly. I think it is going to be a very hard-fought series. No matter who wins, I think it's going to go 7. I believe the Knicks will win the series, but I think there's a good chance the Pacers win it as well. This is a complete coin toss here. It's a coin flip. All right, let me get to some comments here, and then we'll get into my keys and everything else. NJ Bourne 2001 at LFG. What's up, Jeff? Let's go. Joe Barb, a new guy in here. We're going to win tonight. Hashtag go. Ben Attiller. You meant to tag Ben Stiller right there. Thibs Coach of the Year. Relax. My dad says be positive. Joe Barb says we're going to win tonight. We W. Slim Slamma. All right, relax with the sweep. This year has just started. No sweeps. Come on. And Pacers don't stand a chance, France. I highly disagree with you here, that I think the Pacers could easily beat the Knicks. But as it stands right now, the Knicks should win a series that could send them to the NBA Finals. And here we are. So the Knicks, obviously, as I just mentioned, were 2-1 against the Pacers this year. The third game they played in February. Cat had 40 on 14 for 23 from the field, 3 for 8 shooting from deep. Look at that. The Knicks won when Karl-Anthony Towns took more than 5 threes. How crazy is that? That was also a game in which Jalen Brunson had 5,000, only played 23 minutes. And it was also the infamous 30-point game from Josh Hart. Josh Hart was amazing that game. Karl-Anthony Towns was amazing that game. They combined for 70 points. The Knicks win. And that's the last time these two teams played. As I mentioned, Miles Turner missed that game for the Pacers. And on the Knicks side, OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson missed that game as well. So that's the last time these two teams matched up. And I really just don't think much has changed besides both teams getting a few players back. You still saw Halliburton versus Brunson. You saw what he was able to do. I understand that the Pacers over the course of the last 3 months have been a much better team than they were early on in the year. These two teams, for the last time, again, met in February. The Pacers went on that amazing run to close the season right after that. They went into the playoffs with a head of steam, and look where they are right now. It's a completely different Pacers team than what the Knicks saw over the course of those 3 games in the regular season. Let's just call a spade a spade. The Pacers are a much better team than what they were. So again, I'm not discrediting them. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the only reason they are where they are is because of injuries. They deserve the credit. They're here for a reason. They were amazing down the stretch of the season. So this game and this series is going to be very interesting for a multitude of reasons. One of them, and one of the main things to watch in the series, the fact that the Pacers, we saw this last year, they like to play fast. They've got the highest pace, I think, of any team in these playoffs. I believe it 1 and 2 are OKC and them. We saw how fast OKC plays last night. Well, the Pacers play faster. So that's what the Knicks are going to have to deal with. The Knicks are near the bottom of all the playoff teams in terms of pace. They have a 94 pace. The Pacers are around 99. So if the Knicks want to win this series, they're going to need to control the pace. The Knicks are much better in the half court. Operating there, the Pacers are obviously a lot better when it comes to getting out in transition. They're 10, 11 guys deep. They've got an insane bench. These guys are well rested. They come in, they've got a second wind. They will run the Knicks out of the building. Now, come the fourth quarter, come crunch time, that will be a different story. Because if you look at what the Pacers have done here and how much Rick Carlisle has played his main players, Tyrese Halliburton's only averaging 34 minutes a game. I understand that was a recipe for success against the two teams the Pacers have played to get here, being the Bucks and the Cavs. I do not think that that's sustainable going into this series. I really don't. Like, with how much the Knicks play their starters, Rick Carlisle is going to be extremely tempted to match those minutes. Not necessarily play them and all 5 of their starters as much as Tom Thibodeau will play his starters, because if you look at this team's bench, I mean, it is unbelievable. Benedict Mathurin, TJ McConnell, our old friend Obi Toppin, Ben Shep, Thomas Bryant, even Jarvis Walker. They've got 12 guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 guys. The Knicks play 7. Like, these two teams could not be more different if you put them side by side. The Pacers play fast. They've got a deep bench. They're not as top heavy. And on the other side of the coin, you look at this Knicks team, extremely top heavy. You know that they're going to play their starters 40 or more minutes in this game. Now, whether the Knicks will have an advantage in the fourth quarter because they'll be the more ready team to play late on in games because of how well conditioned they are, based on how much they played the regular season under Tom Thibodeau. That's something that we keep harping on here. Credit to Tom Thibodeau. I've hated on him all season long, but the Knicks have looked prepared late in games and have completely run the other team off the court because they're prepared. Now, this Pacers team, I don't know if Rick Carlisle is going to put a lot of stress and strain on these guys throughout the course of these games. Again, like I just mentioned, the Pacers superstar Tyrese Halliburton's only playing 34 minutes a game. No one else is even 33. Andrew Nembhard at 33, 32.8, Siakam at 32.1. I'm interested to see how much these guys play. And I'm also interested to see, how the Knicks match up with them defensively. I think we could tell, going off of what we saw last year in the playoffs, that OG Anunoby will be on Pascal Siakam. We're going to see Mikal Bridges on Tyrese Halliburton, Brunson probably on Aaron Nesmith, Cat. I mean, maybe you put Cat on Miles Turner. I don't know how smart that is. I love Miles Turner's game. His inside-out game. He can finish down low. He's got a paint game. And, of course, he is able to step out and hit the three with his beautiful three. I love his three-point shot. It goes and touches the top of the arena. But they've got a very dynamic team, a very versatile team offensively. The Knicks wing-stop duo is going to make or break this series. And we're also going to see how tightly they call this game when it comes to the Nembhard Jalen Brunson matchup, when it comes to Brunson against Nesmith, because you know that Rick Carlisle is going to switch it up. What we saw last year in the playoffs, throughout the course of that 7-game series, Andrew Nembhard as the primary defender on Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson shot 26 of 39, 66% of the field from the field. He absolutely dominated Andrew Nembhard. I understand a year has gone by, and Nembhard has been a very solid defender throughout the course of this season. Jalen Brunson has proven time and time and time again, he's a different animal. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter who is guarding him. He will get open. He will get to his spots, and he will score on you. It is very difficult to stifle Jalen Brunson. Now, can you slow him down slightly? Absolutely. There's no guy in the league who's unguardable per se. Like there are guys in the league that will get their points, but you got to force them to take difficult shots. If they hit them, you'll live with them. You'll live with those shots. And Jalen Brunson hits a lot of those. But a lot of those shots, you're saying, come on, don't shoot that. Like, no. Yes. So you're gonna have to look to see what the Pacers do when it comes to stopping Jalen Brunson. Will they double? Will they not? It all remains to be seen. Another thing that I'm looking for is who's going to be guarding Josh Hart. I assume that it's going to be Miles Turner because we've seen it time and time again throughout these playoffs. They put Jalen Duren. The Pistons put Jalen Duren on Josh Hart. Then the Celtics put Al Horford / Luke Cornett on Josh Hart. Josh Hart, this is hilarious. And I don't know if Indiana is going to buck this trend. Josh Hart's the best three-point shooting player percentage-wise for the Knicks these playoffs, shooting over 42%. I don't think anyone else is at even 40%. And this isn't on little volume. Like Josh Hart's taking a few threes a game. He's shooting 42% from three. The best three-point shooter percentage-wise for the Knicks this postseason. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. So I don't know if the teams are going to keep doing that. I assume that they will because I think, and we all think as well, that Josh Hart will regress to the mean. And now I look at the Pacers and their two guards and three guards. The Pacers kind of have a short backcourt. You got Halliburton, who's I think the tallest out of the three with him, Nembhard, and Nesmith. But when you look at what Nembhard and Nesmith have done these playoffs, is they've completely risen to the occasion. They've completely taken a step up here offensively. I saw a stat the other day that they're two of the top three outside shot makers in the playoffs this year. Now, will there be a regression to the mean just like you saw just like you're about to see with Josh Hart? I think so. I think that that's unsustainable considering the lack of defense that they saw over the course of the first two series with how banged up all of Cleveland's best defenders were, with the lack of defense that the Bucks have, injured or not. Their defense sucks. Terrible. The Knicks, as we've seen over the course of these playoffs, have two top 10 defenders. You got a top 3 defender in OG Anunoby. You got a top 10 defender in Mikal Bridges. Probably the best two defensive wings on the same team in the NBA. The best defensive wing duo. And what we saw against the Celtics is what we'll see against this Pacers team. And it will be the most difficult test for the Pacers these playoffs, is what OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges are able to do. And I'm very interested to see how Mikal Bridges fares against Tyrese Halliburton. And something that I kind of harped on early on today with a few of my conversations with my friends about what the Knicks' keys to success are, you can't double Halliburton. No matter how hot he is in said game, he's only shooting 34% from three. He's shooting 47% from the field, but he's averaging 9 assists. He is what keeps this wheel moving. Forgot to say, he's the one who keeps this train going. He's the one who sets the tone offensively. Nembhard is kind of taking a playmaking role. He's averaging 6 assists. TJ McConnell, that bitch, I can't. I'm not looking forward to playing TJ McConnell. He terrorizes the Knicks. He averages 4.4 assists, but you got two main playmakers in that lineup. Everyone else, you're not going to expect Aaron Nesmith to be dishing out assists. He only averages 1.6 as a guard. I mean, I don't know. What I'm just thinking is you cannot, under any circumstances, send a double at Tyrese Halliburton. If he beats you offensively, if he beats Mikal Bridges, if he beats whomever is switched onto him, when inevitably, I mean, every team does it. It's like playing 2K. You're spamming pick and rolls. Like, this is what the NBA players are doing. This is what coaches are scheming up. I cannot remember the last time I saw a player go one-on-one with his intended defender. Like, when was the last time we saw a guy just attack the guy who was supposed to be guarding him in a certain possession? Like, other teams are so good at drawing mismatches for the best players. The Knicks are terrible at it. I take that back. Jalen Brunson's amazing at cooking whoever is his primary defender is at the start of the game. Other than that, you don't really see it too much. And I can understand why, because there are a bunch of duos in this league that are just so adept at running the pick and roll, the pick and pop to perfection. When you look at the Knicks, something I've discussed plenty as well, it's something that I discussed with Zach Harper of The Athletic on my conference finals preview. If you missed it, it's kind of evergreen even after this first game. You can still watch that. It's on my YouTube. Great stuff there. Zach's the best. But something we discussed there, and something he opened my mind to, because I was asking him, I didn't understand it, but it makes sense. The Knicks don't trust Karl-Anthony Towns to come up and set screens for Jalen Brunson. He doesn't set hard enough screens. He's not physical enough. And I can understand why maybe there's a little bit of trepidation from Karl-Anthony Towns because of how easily he's gotten into foul trouble. He is by far the one Knick who averages the most fouls per game in these playoffs. He averages 4.4 fouls per game. No one has even 4. No one else even has 3.5. That's going to have to change in this series because Karl-Anthony Towns needs to be able to be aggressive on these pick and pops because the Knicks have to start running them. And you want to know why? It's as simple as you need to get Karl-Anthony Towns involved early on in the game. And I'm not going to reveal my position on this. You know exactly what I'm going to say. I've been saying it all playoffs long. I'm going to get into that, my keys to the game. But the Knicks just, they need to start generating easy pick and roll looks. Josh Hart, as the primary screener, because he is the one guy in that starting lineup who sets the best screens. It's unfortunate that your 7-foot center, who happens to be the best big man shooter from 3, can't set screens. You got to rely on a guy like Josh Hart, who the defense just disrespects. There is no threat of him rolling to the basket because whichever defender is either, let's say the guy guarding Jalen Brunson as the primary ball handler gets over the screen and he's able to stick on Jalen Brunson. The guy who's behind him, whichever center is guarding Josh Hart, there's no threat of what Josh Hart is going to do. So he's going to sit back in the paint. Josh Hart is going to pop out and he'll catch the ball on the 3-point line, and he's going to look around to dish because no one respects him shooting the 3. So that is what we are going to see throughout the course of this series. It's just going to keep happening until Josh Hart continues to hit threes at this unbelievable clip like he is hitting them right now. If you missed it before, he is the best 3-point shooter on this Knicks team, these playoffs percentage-wise, at 42%. Just take that one in. And these teams have good reason to believe that's going to regress to the mean. Listen, I believe it. I think it's going to happen. So you're going to see these teams continue to disrespect him from beyond the arc. And let's see if he can make them pay. I don't even know if Tom Thibodeau is going to give him the leash to be able to do that. But Tom Thibodeau cannot get too hooked on leaving Josh Hart in the game so much. I understand he's extremely effective. He does stuff on the court that you don't see anyone else do in the NBA. He's a top 2 or 3 player when it comes to pushing the pace, when it comes to scoring in transition. I like to compare him with LeBron James when it comes to that specific skill, nothing else. But Josh Hart is extremely adept at pushing the pace, getting out in transition, and finishing through contact. That's all fine and dandy. That's amazing. But when you see the type of X factor that Mitchell Robinson has been throughout these playoffs, I know I'm beating the dead horse. I know it's not going to happen, but I have been dying on the hill that Mitchell Robinson should be starting these games for the Knicks, especially in a series like this, guys, against a Pacers team who is not amazing at rebounding. They're really not. Like, they're the 11th best team in these playoffs at rebounding. They are 12th best when it comes to net rebounding rate in the playoffs as well. Like, this is a team that you should be dominating on the boards against. And, like, I understand the idea of, oh, Josh Hart grabs boards. He's the best rebounder under 6'5" in NBA history. I don't disagree with you on that. But when you bring Josh Hart out of the game, you're able to get spacing. And when you traded for Karl-Anthony Towns, you acquired him to get spacing. Then the Knicks decided, I mean, you knew Josh Hart was going to start after they traded away DiVincenzo at Randall. But Josh Hart has been clogging up the paint. He's been making it extremely difficult for Jalen Brunson to get into the paint, and he's allowing the opposing center to guard him. There's no threat of a pick and pop. There's no threat of a pick and roll because the defense is anticipating that. So I like to see Mitchell Robinson start with how good he has been, with how dominant he is on the offensive glass, with how big of an X factor he's been throughout these playoffs for the Knicks. It's not going to happen. I know I'm beating the dead horse with this issue, but at some point, Tom Thibodeau's got to switch it up. He's got to go Mitchell Robinson because these teams will continue to hack him. I know he's been a little bit better over the last 2 games for the Knicks. I understand he shot 6 for 6 in Game 5. Teams are still going to be hacking him. Like, he's still going to be a 50% or below free throw shooter. Like, I looked at a stat and, like, teams kind of take a step back from hacking an opposing player when the opposing player shoots at least 65% from the line. I don't think Mitchell Robinson will ever reach that. I know he shot 70% from the line when he returned from his injury in late February up until the start of these playoffs. He's been terrible. He's been putrid from the line throughout these playoffs. So that is hence why I think that he should start, because you should be maximizing his minutes. You should be playing him at the start of each quarter because either the Pacers they self-implode when it comes to putting themselves into foul trouble, putting the Knicks into the bonus, or they just suck it up and let the game flow and let Mitchell Robinson get 6 to 7 minutes at the start of each quarter because the Knicks aren't in the bonus yet. I refrain from discussing this too much because I know it's not going to happen. So again, I know I'm beating the dead horse. I've said it a million times tonight here. Mitchell Robinson's not going to start. I need to move on. If it happens, amazing. If it doesn't, I'm going to let it go. That's what I'm trying to do with things out of my control in my life. I'm going to let it go. Let's do it. Let's get into it. Keys to the game. I know I've kind of talked about them throughout this entire live stream, but I'm going to get into my main ones. I'm going to get into what is the most important in no particular order, but starting with number 1 here, and that's just feeding Karl-Anthony Towns early on in this game. You've got to make sure that you're extending Miles Turner out to the 3-point line. If he's the one guarding Karl-Anthony Towns, it is going to be a massive advantage for the Knicks. Maybe they'll put Siakam on him. I don't really know how they're going to match up there when it comes to who's going to be guarding Karl-Anthony Towns. I think they'll probably put Miles Turner against Josh Hart so he can roam freely in the paint. But if Karl-Anthony Towns starts hitting from deep and he starts dominating whomever is guarding him in the post, you might have to see, you might see Rick Carlisle put Miles Turner on Karl-Anthony Towns. And when that happens, the entire offense frees up. The entire paint frees up. Pascal Siakam is obviously not as big of a paint presence as Miles Turner is. I love Miles Turner's game. I've talked about it a multitude of times. I think he's a really good paint protector. It's a lot better than Karl-Anthony Towns is, that's for sure. But he's a guy who averages 2 blocks per game. No one else even averages 1 besides Isaiah Jackson. He's hurt. He barely played 5 games this year. So this is the type of team you're looking at here. This is the type of team. Now listen, again, they're not top heavy. They're extremely deep. But you look at a guy like Miles Turner, he's what, the fourth or fifth best player on this team, and he's really solid. So I like to see the Knicks try to get him out of the paint, do whatever it takes to draw him out of there. If he's on Josh Hart, so be it. Like the Knicks are going to live by Josh Hart, or they're going to die by Josh Hart. That's just what Tom Thibodeau has done. He's ridden Josh Hart throughout the course of this year, throughout the course of last year's playoffs when the Knicks suffered all of those injuries and they had no other choice but to start Josh Hart in each one of those games and play him 40-plus minutes, and then he hurt his rib at the end of that series, and then he still played big minutes in those final couple of games. Josh Hart will play a lot. Death, taxes, and that happening. So you can't really expect Miles Turner to be brought out into the perimeter. I don't really care. You need to find ways to get Karl-Anthony Towns incorporated in the offense. We've seen it time and time and time again, where if he's not catching the ball on the first few possessions and he's not getting open looks, he's not driving to the paint, driving to the bucket with authority, he becomes passive. And when Karl-Anthony Towns is passive, he becomes a non-factor on the court. You're playing 4 players because he doesn't bring you anything defensively that warrants him playing as much as he does. So that's why it is so essential that you get Karl-Anthony Towns going early on in the game, because he sucks if you don't. He's terrible. That's number one. Number two, the Knicks need some production from anyone outside of their top 7. Like, we know the top 7 is the 5 starters and Mitch and Deuce McBride. The Knicks need something from one of these other guys off the bench. I'd like to see Tom Thibodeau actually try Landry Shamet out in this series. Indiana's so deep that it wouldn't really hurt them. If they try Landry Shamet 4 or 5 minutes in this game, could that really hurt? I know you're throwing him directly into the fire. He's barely played these playoffs, but you're going to have to try some things here. You're going to have to experiment a little. I know Tom Thibodeau is not much of an experimenter, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Cam Payne has been giving you awful minutes. Of course, he's a traffic cone on the defensive end. He's able to set charges every once in a while, but his 3 has not been falling outside of that first game against Detroit a month ago. He's been terrible. He's borderline unplayable. Deuce McBride is good enough as a backup point guard. The Knicks couldn't, interchange any one of those starters to play with the bench guys, and so be it. I get that. You got to try Landry Shamet. You have to. You got to see what you have in him. Maybe DeLon Wright gets some run. Maybe he gets, inserted in one of these games. It couldn't hurt to try. If the Knicks get outscored by 10 points in the 3 minutes that one of these guys plays, then so be it. You tried it out. At least you attempted it. I get if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But you're going up against an Indiana team that's 11 deep, and you're only 7 deep. These guys are going to be well rested when they come back into the game. Now, I think the Knicks are the most conditioned 7 deep team in NBA history. That's for sure. So I don't know. I really love to see some minutes for Shamet, some minutes for Payne if he's able to actually bring it. If he is a factor off the bench, the Knicks will win this series campaign. Like, if he's coming in and doing what he did over the course of that series against the Sixers when he came off the bench for the Sixers, then he's going to earn some playing time. He's going to earn 10, 15 minutes of playing time. We obviously haven't seen that. He's been a non-factor every time he stepped on the court besides game 1 of the Pistons. I just said it. But we got to see something from one of these guys outside of the top 7. The other thing is the Knicks need to crash the offensive glass. They need to generate second chance opportunities because they cannot allow the Pacers to get out in transition. If they allow the Pacers to play at their pace, the Knicks allow the Pacers to play fast on offense, the Knicks will lose this game and they'll lose the series. The Knicks need to control the pace, and it starts with them grabbing offensive rebounds. That's why you need to see at least 25 or more Mitch minutes per game this series, and that's my number 3 here. The Knicks need to maximize the Mitchell Robinson minutes. Like, they're going to need to play him over the last 2 minutes of every single quarter. Like, that has to happen. Like, that is a non-negotiable. You got to start him. You got to play him over the last 2 minutes of every single quarter, maybe not the fourth quarter, but Mitchell Robinson is going to need to be a major factor because the Knicks need offensive rebounds. We got to see what we have in Mitch this series. He's been an X factor in every game the Knicks have played so far these playoffs. We'll see if that continues on into this series. Another one of these things is the Knicks need to do a good job limiting the amount of times that Tyrese Halliburton finds an open man. The Pacers easily average the most assists per game. They have the best assist ratio in the entire NBA these playoffs. And they will continue to find the open man. They will continue to swing the ball until they get the ball into the paint or they get an open guy from three. They're going to keep doing that. The Knicks need to do a good job at limiting wide open guys at the end of these plays. The pick and roll, the pick and pop. They throw it out to the guy on the perimeter. Some guy sets an off-ball screen, and there could be no open. I understand it's easier said than done, and this is a Knicks team that allows a million wide-open threes per game. The Knicks need to do a better job than what they did against the Celtics because this Pacers team will kill you if you give them open looks. And they're a stingy team. They're really annoying to face. So, I think all those things are important. I also think that the Knicks need to get the same level of production defensively out of OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges like they got in the Boston series. I think that is, probably the biggest factor besides the Knicks setting the pace in this series is what Wingstop is going to be able to give you. Will Mikal Bridges be able to keep it up? Will he be able to continue his fourth quarter heroics where he's averaging 5 points per fourth quarter on 47% from three, 33% over the course of all 4 quarters and every single one of the games he's played? He's averaging 40 minutes a game. In all of his fourth quarters, he's averaging 47% from three and over 53% from the field. So these guys are going to have to continue to bring it. The Knicks need to be in a position to close this game where they can give the ball to Jalen Brunson and let him do the work, or the Knicks need to blow them out. There's many ways the Knicks can win this game. This isn't like the Celtics, where the Celtics had to miss 40, shoot 25% from three those first 2 games for the Knicks to win it. The Knicks can play a subpar game. They could play a B or a C game and still win this game. The Pacers aren't going to hand this game to them. The Pacers aren't going to hand this series to them like the Celtics did. The Pacers are fully healthy. They might be better coached than the Celtics. And they won't be as cocky as the Celtics were going into that series. All right, let's go Knicks. I'm glad I covered all the bases for this game. Again, I previewed the entire series with Zach Harper of The Athletic. You can check that out on my YouTube. But, man, this is crazy. This is surreal. First conference finals game in my lifetime. And the majority of the people who are watching this in your lifetimes as well. All right, now I can go back to being stressed. I apologize in advance for any crazy tweets that I sent tonight. You can mute me. That's okay. I understand if you want to do that. But let's go Knicks. I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow about this or whatever. Let's freaking go, man. Come on.